The air was thick with sorrow. As I stood at my father's graveside, the world around me faded. I could feel the weight of grief pressing down, suffocating me. Friends and family murmured their condolences, but all I could hear was the silence left by his absence. My heart ached, each heartbeat a reminder that he was gone. It wasn't just the loss of a father, it was the end of a chapter, a sudden closing of a door I thought would always remain ajar. After the funeral, I returned to the house, the familiar warmth now replaced by a chilling emptiness. I wandered through the rooms, memories flooding back like a tide. The scent of his aftershave lingered in the air, the echoes of his laughter still danced in the corners. I needed to grasp something tangible, to feel connected to him once more. As I sorted through his belongings, my fingers brushed against a worn envelope tucked beneath a stack of old letters. It felt out of place, a secret hiding in plain sight. Curiosity piqued, I opened it. The letter inside was written in his hand, but it didn't speak of love or family. Instead, it hinted at something darker, something buried deep within our family's history secrets that could unravel everything I thought I knew. Confusion spiraled into anger. Why hadn't he shared this with us? Why had he chosen to keep this hidden? As I read the words, a whirlwind of emotions surged within me, each sentence a dagger of betrayal. The father I idolized had flaws, and they were laid bare before me like a raw wound. I grappled with these revelations, my heart heavy with questions. I needed answers. I found my brother, James, in the garden, his back turned to me, as he stared into the distance. "James," I called softly, hesitant, "we need to talk about Dad's letter." He turned slowly, his expression a mix of annoyance and sadness. "Not now, Sarah. Can't you see I'm trying to process everything?" His words cut deeper than I expected. It felt as if he was pushing me away, just as he had been doing since the funeral. "James, this is important. It's about our father," I pressed, frustration rising. "There are things here we don't understand." He shook his head, dismissing me like a child with a silly notion. "Dad's choices were his own. We shouldn't question them." The sharpness of his response stung. It was as if I were trying to pry open a door he had bolted shut. I wanted to scream, to shake him until he understood the weight of what I had found, but instead, I stood silent, feeling the chasm between us widen. His anger was palpable, a storm brewing beneath the surface. I had always looked up to him, but now I felt a surge of resentment. He was hiding behind his grief, refusing to confront our father's mistakes. "You don't even want to know the truth, do you?" I challenged, my voice steady despite the tremor in my heart. "Are you really okay with just letting it all go?" He flinched at my words, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of doubt, but he quickly masked it, retreating into his fortress of denial. Days passed, and our family felt more fractured than ever. I watched my mother, Elizabeth, as she moved through the house like a ghost. Her stoicism was a shield, but I could see the cracks beneath. She was grieving in her own way, absorbed in her memories yet unable to articulate her pain. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, and I longed to reach out, to bridge the distance. But every time I tried, she would retreat, her heart guarded. I often found her sitting in Dad's armchair, staring into space, lost in thoughts I couldn't penetrate. I turned to my faith for solace, seeking comfort in prayer and the familiar warmth of the church. The pastor's words resonated with me, reminding me of the strength that comes from community and belief. But each sermon felt like a band-aid on a wound that needed stitches. I needed to confront the truth, to find a way to heal not just myself but our family. The path ahead seemed daunting, yet I felt a flicker of resolve ignite within me. I would not let this letter destroy us. But James's isolation weighed heavily on my heart. I noticed the way he avoided family gatherings, how he would slip out before anyone could engage him in conversation. The brother I once shared laughter and dreams with was slipping away, and I could do nothing to stop it. I reached out to him, hoping to coax him back into the light. "James, let's talk. I'm worried about you." His eyes darkened, and for a moment, I saw the vulnerability hidden beneath his bravado. Then, just as quickly, he shut down, a wall rising between us once more. One evening, I stumbled upon another letter while rummaging through a box of Dad's belongings. My heart raced as I unfolded it, the familiar handwriting sending shivers down my spine. This one was different, more personal, more poignant. It spoke of love lost, of choices made that had led to estrangement. A name I didn't recognize lingered at the bottom, a ghost from the past that threatened to upturn everything. I felt my breath hitch in my throat. What had my father done? I knew then that I was on the brink of something monumental. The truth was waiting, tangled in layers of family history and pain. The shadows of past decisions loomed large over us, and with each revelation, I felt the tension tighten like a noose. I was determined to pull through, to uncover the story hidden beneath the surface. But as I pieced together the fragments of our family's past, I couldn't shake the feeling that this journey would either bind us together or tear us apart forever. As I prepared to confront my brother once more, a storm brewed within me. The churning emotions felt like a tempest, threatening to spill over. I was ready to face the truth, whatever it might unveil, but I couldn't help but wonder, would James be ready to join me on this path, or would he remain trapped in his sorrow, refusing to see the light? The answers lay just beyond reach, and the next conversation would be a reckoning. The next morning, the sun filtered through the curtains, casting rays of light that danced across the living room floor. I sat on the edge of the sofa, heart pounding with anticipation. I could feel the weight of the world on my shoulders, the burden of the secrets threatening to unravel everything I held dear. I took a deep breath, inhaling the familiar scent of coffee brewing in the kitchen, a comforting reminder of home amidst the chaos. James stepped into the room, his face drawn, shadows under his eyes betraying sleepless nights. He glanced at me, then quickly shifted his gaze to the window, as though the landscape outside held answers he was too afraid to confront. "What's up?" he asked, his voice flat, almost defensive. "Can we talk?" I asked, my tone gentle yet firm. I needed him to hear me, needed him to understand that this wasn't just about the letter anymore. It was about us, about the bond we used to share. I found another letter from Dad. "It's important." James flinched, his body tensing like a coiled spring. "I don't want to read his letters. I'm done digging up the past." He moved towards the kitchen, seeking solace in the mundane. It was as if I were reaching for him, only to have him slip away like water through my fingers. "Please," I urged, rising to my feet, desperation creeping into my voice. "You don't understand what he was trying to say. There's more to our family than what we've known. We can't just ignore it." He turned, frustration etched on his face. "Sarah, why can't you see? Dad made his choices. It's not our place to question them." The anger bubbled up, a fire igniting within me. "But he left us with these secrets. We can't just pretend everything was fine. Do you really think ignoring this will help us heal?" I paused, searching his eyes for a flicker of understanding. "You're hurting, James. I'm hurting. We need to face this together." His expression softened for a moment, a crack in his armor. I pressed on, sensing the opportunity. What if we could find healing in the truth? What if it brings us closer instead of tearing us apart? But just as quickly, he shut down again, the walls rising once more. "I can't, Sarah. I'm not ready." The rejection felt like a punch to the gut. I stood there, heart racing, grappling with the reality that I couldn't force him to see what I saw. "I'll be here when you are," I whispered, my voice laced with sorrow. I retreated to the garden, the air thick with the scent of blooming roses. I needed clarity, a moment to breathe. I knelt in the dirt, fingers digging into the earth, grounding myself. Each breath filled with the hope of new beginnings, a reminder that even in darkness, life could persist. Days turned into weeks, yet the rift between James and me only deepened. I watched as he withdrew further, his laughter extinguished, replaced by a heavy silence that hung over the house. Elizabeth tried to hold us together, but I saw the strain in her eyes as she juggled her own grief while trying to keep us from falling apart. One evening, I found her in the kitchen, staring at the family photo above the mantel. Her expression was distant, lost in memories of happier times. I joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Mum, it's okay to feel sad. We're all struggling." She turned to me, tears glistening in her eyes. "I just don't know how to navigate this without him, Sarah. Your father was my anchor." I embraced her tightly, feeling her heartache resonate within me. "We can lean on each other. We'll get through this. We have to." Her grip tightened, and for a moment, we stood together, united in our pain. But even that comfort felt fleeting, as the undercurrents of unspoken truths continued to swirl around us like a storm. One night, as I lay in bed, the shadows danced on the ceiling, taunting me with unanswered questions. I felt compelled to reach out to James once more. I picked up my phone, fingers hovering over the screen, unsure of the words that could bridge this divide. I finally typed, "I love you, James. Please, let's talk. I can't do this alone. I hit send, my heart racing, uncertain of how he would respond. Moments later, my phone buzzed with his reply. I don't know if I can, Sarah. I stared at the screen, a heaviness settling in my chest, but I refused to give up. Just meet me tomorrow at the park. We need to face this together. The next day, a crisp breeze rustled the leaves as I waited on a bench. The world felt alive around me, yet I was caught in a stillness, waiting for James. When he arrived, his shoulders were hunched, a storm brewing in his eyes. Why are we here? He asked, his voice tight. Because we can't keep running from the truth, I replied, steadying myself. Whatever Dad did, we need to acknowledge it. It's part of us, and it doesn't have to tear us apart. His gaze softened, but uncertainty still clouded his features. What if it changes everything? Maybe it does, I said, emboldened by the moment. But we have to decide if we want to face it together or let it destroy what we have left. He sighed deeply, the weight of our father's secrets pressing down on him like a lead blanket. I don't know if I'm strong enough. Then let's find our strength together, I urged, my heart full of hope. We owe it to Dad, to ourselves, to seek the truth. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken fears and doubts. But I sensed a shift, the tiniest crack in the fortress he had built. Okay, he finally said, voice almost a whisper. I'll listen. The storm within began to settle, the path ahead uncertain yet filled with the promise of healing. Together, we took the first step into the unknown, ready to uncover the truth that could either bind us or break us. I felt a flicker of faith ignite within me. We could navigate this, hand in hand, if only we dared to embrace the shadows of our past. The park was alive with the sounds of life. Children laughed and played, their carefree joy a sharp contrast to the heaviness that hung over James and me. I looked at him, his brow furrowed, a storm brewing behind his eyes. I felt the weight of the moment settle on my shoulders, but I refused to let fear dictate our path. Let's sit, I suggested, gesturing to a bench nestled beneath a sprawling oak tree. The leaves whispered secrets in the breeze. As we settled, I could feel the tension radiating between us, palpable and thick. Do you remember when we were kids? I asked, trying to break the ice. How we used to spend hours climbing trees, pretending we were explorers. James chuckled softly, a sound so rare lately. Yeah, those were the days. We thought we could conquer the world. Maybe we still can, I said, meeting his gaze. But first, we need to confront the past. It doesn't have to define us, but it will if we ignore it. He nodded slowly, eyes drifting to the ground. I don't want to feel the pain again. Not now. I get that. But we can't heal without facing what's hurt us, I replied, my voice steady. Dad's letters, they're not just reminders of what he did wrong. They're part of our story. We have to read them. James inhaled sharply, as if my words were a blow to his gut. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Then let's take it slow, just read one together, I suggested, my heart racing. We can do this, James. We're stronger than we think. He hesitated, and for a moment I feared he would retreat. But then, like the flicker of a candle in the dark, I saw a glimmer of resolve in his eyes. All right, just one. Thank you, I whispered, feeling the warmth of hope spread through me. Let's go home and face it together. The drive back was quiet, the air thick with unspoken words. I could sense the turmoil within him, a tempest of emotions battling for dominance. I prayed silently, asking for guidance, for strength, for the courage to face whatever awaited us in those letters. When we arrived, the house felt heavy, the walls echoing with the memories of what had been. I led James to the living room, where the box of letters sat, a treasure chest of secrets waiting to be unearthed. My pulse quickened as I opened the lid, revealing the neatly stacked envelopes, each one a fragment of our father's soul. Which one? James asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Let's start with the first. I pulled out the top letter, its edges frayed with age. I could feel James's eyes on me, a silent request for reassurance. We'll take turns reading. I'll go first. I unfolded the letter, my fingers trembling slightly. The words were familiar yet distant, like echoes from a past I could barely grasp. I began to read, my voice steady but thick with emotion. Dear Sarah and James, I started feeling the weight of his absence in the air. If you're reading this, it means I'm no longer there to guide you. I want you to know how deeply I regret the choices I made. As I read on, I felt the emotions wash over me, the pain, the remorse, the longing for redemption. Each word was a thread weaving our family history into something tangible. I glanced at James. His face was unreadable, but I could see the flicker of something behind his eyes, a mix of anger and sadness. "Keep going," he urged, his voice low, almost a plea. I was lost, consumed by my own demons. I continued, my heart racing. "I made mistakes that cost me my family, and caused you both pain. I wish I could take it back, but I can't. What I can do is ask for your forgiveness." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I paused, looking up at James. "What do you think?" He ran a hand through his hair, as if trying to clear the fog. He sounds so broken." "He was," I said softly, my heart aching for the man who had failed us yet yearned to reach out from beyond his mistakes. "But this is our chance to understand him, to heal." James sighed deeply, the shadows of his thoughts swirling around him. "I don't know if I can forgive him." "Forgiveness is a journey, not a destination," I reminded him. "It's okay to take your time, we're in this together." He nodded, albeit reluctantly, as if grappling with the weight of my words. "What if we can't move past it?" "Then we'll find a way to live with it," I said, my voice firm but gentle. "But we can't do that without confronting the truth. Let's read another." With a nod, he leaned forward, taking the next letter from the box. His hands trembled slightly as he unfolded it. "Okay, but I'm not making any promises. Just read." As he began, I watched his expression shift from anger to confusion, then to sorrow. Each word seemed to chip away at the fortress he had built around himself. "He talks about the mistakes he made, how he wishes he had been there for us." Tears filled my eyes. "He's trying to connect, James. He's reaching out to us from the past." "I know," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "But it hurts. It hurts so much." "Pain is part of healing," I whispered, feeling the ache of my own heart. "But we can't heal if we don't let it out." He took a deep breath, his shoulders relaxing slightly. "I just want to understand." "We will, together." As we continued to read, the letters revealed a tapestry of our father's struggles, his regrets, his hopes for us. Each line was a step closer to understanding, a bridge over the chasm of our shared pain. The shadows of the past began to shift, illuminating a path toward healing. In that moment, I realized that the reckoning wasn't just about confronting our father's mistakes, it was about embracing our own. Together, we would find the strength to face the truth, to forgive, and to begin anew. "Let's promise to keep reading," I said, my heart full of hope. "We owe it to ourselves." James met my gaze, a flicker of determination igniting within him. "All right, let's keep going." And as we dove deeper into the letters, I felt the bonds between us begin to mend, one word at a time. The journey ahead was uncertain, but I knew we had taken the first step toward healing. Together, we would face the shadows of our past and emerge stronger on the other side. The letters became a lifeline, a thread connecting me to a father I thought I understood. Each word unveiled pieces of his soul, fragments of a man wrestling with his own demons. James and I settled into a rhythm, reading together sometimes silently, sometimes aloud, our voices weaving a tapestry of shared grief and revelation. "I was afraid of failing you," James read aloud, his voice barely breaking the silence. "How could he have thought that? He failed us in so many ways." "Maybe he didn't know how to be the father we needed," I replied, my heart heavy with empathy. "It's easy to judge when you're standing on the outside. He was just a man, trying to navigate his own pain." James sighed, his brow furrowing. "But he was our dad. He should have known better." "Maybe he didn't believe he deserved to be better," I suggested gently. "Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones we fight within." He nodded, staring at the paper as if it held the answers to unasked questions. "But why keep it from us? Why not share this?" "Pride, shame, fear, all of it can keep us locked away," I said, my voice steady. "But now we have the chance to break those chains. We're not alone in this." As we continued, the letters revealed his struggles with addiction, the moments of clarity overshadowed by lapses of judgment. "I wanted to be a better man," James read, his voice thick with emotion. "I wanted to be your hero." "Maybe he was trying to reconcile with his own failures," I murmured. "He wanted to believe he could change, just like we can." James closed his eyes for a moment, letting the words settle. "It's hard to think of him as anything but a disappointment." "Disappointment doesn't erase love," I reminded him. We can love him and still feel hurt. It's okay to feel both. He opened his eyes, a flicker of understanding lighting them. I just wish he had fought harder for us. Maybe he didn't know how, I said softly. But we do. We can fight for each other, for our family. There was a long pause, silence wrapping around us like a warm blanket. I could see the gears turning in James's mind, the battle between resentment and compassion. It was a delicate dance, one that required time and tenderness. Okay, he said finally, his voice low. What's the next letter? I reached for the next one, my fingers brushing against the aged paper. This one feels different, I said, glancing at the envelope. It's addressed to both of us. James sat up straighter, his interest piqued. Let's hear it. I opened the letter, my heart racing with anticipation. Dear Sarah and James, I began, feeling the familiar weight of his presence in the words. If you're reading this, it means I've finally found the courage to speak my truth. As I continued, I felt the air shift. His words poured out like a river, raw and unfiltered. I've been hiding from you, from myself. I never wanted you to see the man I had become, but I realize now that you deserve to know the truth. James clenched his jaw, his eyes narrowing. He's finally being honest. Let's listen, I urged gently. This is his chance to reach out. I wish I had the strength to be the father you deserved, I read, my voice trembling. I've fought battles that left me scarred, and I didn't want you to see the damage. Tears pooled in my eyes. He's admitting his weaknesses. He's showing us his heart. James swallowed hard, emotion flickering across his face. It feels vulnerable. Because it is, I said, my voice steady. This is the part of him we need to embrace, the flawed, broken man who still loved us. James leaned back, running a hand through his hair. It's a lot to take in. Let it sink in, I replied. We're uncovering layers of truth. It's not easy, but it's necessary. I hope you can forgive me, I continued, my voice thick with emotion. I've made choices that hurt you, and for that, I am truly sorry. But I want you to know that love was never absent. It was buried beneath my failures. The words hung heavy, a weight of realization settling between us. James's expression softened, the walls he had built beginning to crumble. He really loved us. Yes, I affirmed, feeling the warmth of hope flicker in the space between our hearts. He just couldn't find a way to show it. James took a deep breath, as if trying to release the tension coiling within him. I want to believe that. We can choose to believe it, I said firmly. Forgiveness is not about condoning his actions, it's about freeing ourselves from the weight of resentment. He nodded slowly, the conflict still swirling within him. But how do we move forward from here? By taking it one step at a time, I replied, my heart steady with conviction. By allowing ourselves to feel, to grieve, and to heal, together. The next letter beckoned, a promise of deeper exploration. Let's keep reading, I urged, my voice filled with determination. There's more to uncover. James hesitated, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. What if it's too much? Then we'll pause, I reassured him, but I believe there's strength in facing the truth. That's where healing begins. He took a deep breath, the flicker of resolve returning. All right, let's do it. As we turned to the next letter, I felt the air shift again, a sense of anticipation hanging between us. Each word was a step deeper into the labyrinth of our Father's heart, a journey toward understanding and acceptance. Together, we would navigate the shadows, embracing both the light and the darkness. We were digging through the rubble of our past, unearthing the legacy of our family, and discovering our own strength along the way. Whatever it takes, I whispered, we'll face it together. And with that promise, we continued, ready to explore the depths of our shared history, knowing that every revelation brought us closer to healing and closer to each other. The next letter lay before us, its edges frayed and yellowed with age. I felt the weight of it, the unspoken truths it held. James leaned closer, his breath hitching as I began to read. Dear Sarah and James. I started, the words rolling off my tongue like a prayer. In writing this, I'm exposing my soul. I hope you find it in your hearts to forgive me. James clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white. What has he done now? His voice was low, a growl of anger barely contained. I glanced at him, the tension in the air palpable. Let's hear him out, I urged softly, trying to quell the storm brewing in his chest. I hid my struggles from you, believing it was for your protection, I read, my voice steady. I thought keeping you in the dark would spare you pain. My heart raced as I continued, but in my silence, I only created a chasm between us. James's expression darkened. A chasm. That's an understatement. He made choices that shattered our trust. I could see the fury flickering in his eyes, a fire igniting with every word I read. He could have been honest. Maybe he didn't know how, I replied, trying to maintain a calm facade. He was wrestling with his demons, James. It's not an excuse, but it's a glimpse into his struggle. I wanted to shield you from the truth, I continued, feeling the weight of each sentence. But I realize now that my secrets only hurt you. I was weak, and I thought strength meant keeping you safe from my failures. James inhaled sharply, the tension escalating. Safe? He left us with nothing but confusion and pain. I can't accept that he thought hiding was protecting us. Feelings are messy. James, I countered, my voice firm. We can't expect him to have it all figured out. None of us do. Remember, he was fighting his own war. He shook his head, frustration spilling over. It doesn't excuse the choices he made, Sarah. How can I forgive a man who chose his addiction over his family? Forgiveness isn't about excusing behavior, I replied, my heart pounding. It's about freeing ourselves. If we carry this burden of anger, it will only drag us down. James's eyes were stormy, a tempest brewing just beneath the surface. You make it sound so easy. Just forgive and move on. It's not easy, I said, my voice trembling slightly. But it's necessary. We have to acknowledge our pain to heal. I know I've disappointed you. I read, my heart aching as I sensed his vulnerability. I wish I could take back the moments I chose darkness instead of light. The room fell silent, the weight of his words settling heavily around us. James's expression softened for a moment, the flicker of understanding breaking through. He's admitting he failed us, he said quietly, the anger ebbing slightly. I've battled addiction, and it's a fight I'm still waging, I continued, my voice steady despite the emotional tide rising within me. I wish I could have been the father you needed. I'm sorry for the pain I caused, for the moments I was absent. James's jaw tightened again, but I could see a crack forming in his defenses. He's still using that as an excuse, he muttered, the bitterness creeping back in. You deserve to know the truth, even if it's painful. I pressed on, my resolve firm. I want you to understand that my love for you is real, even if my actions didn't reflect it. A moment of silence stretched between us, the air thick with unspoken emotions. James's fingers twitched, the battle raging within him. It feels like he's asking us to forgive him for everything. Maybe he is, I said gently. But think of it this way. He's finally giving us a glimpse into his heart. He's showing us his struggles, his failures. It's raw and messy, but it's real. James looked away, his gaze shifting to the garden beyond the window. I just don't know if I can accept it. I hope you can find it in your hearts to forgive me, I read, my voice trembling slightly. He's reaching out, James. This is his attempt to connect with us, to show us he cares. I've hurt you more than I can ever express, I continued, feeling the tears prick my eyes. But I want you to know that I am proud of you both. You are the light in my darkness. The words hung in the air, a fragile thread connecting us to the man we had lost. James's shoulders dropped, a heaviness lifting ever so slightly. He's proud? After everything? Yes, I said, my heart swelling with warmth. He may have failed in many ways, but he still saw the good in us. We were his light. James took a deep breath, the tension slowly dissipating. It's hard to reconcile that with my anger. Then don't rush it, I replied softly. Let it simmer. It's okay to feel both anger and love. We're complex beings. It's part of healing. I hope that one day you can look back and see that my love was always there, even in my absence, I continued, my voice steady despite the tears slipping down my cheeks. I'm sorry for the pain I caused, but I hope you can find your own strength to overcome it. James turned to me, his eyes glistening. He wants us to be stronger than he was. Yes, I affirmed, my heart swelling with a sense of purpose. He's challenging us to rise above the pain, to break the cycle. I love you both, I finished, my voice thick with emotion. He wanted us to know that, despite everything. The silence that followed felt charged with possibility. James shifted in his seat, processing the whirlwind of emotions churning within him. Maybe it's time to let go of some of this anger. Maybe it is, I echoed, the flicker of hope igniting in the depths of my heart. We can choose to honor him by embracing our own journey of forgiveness. James nodded slowly, the storm inside him beginning to calm. Let's keep reading, he said, a determination lacing his words. As I reached for the next letter, I felt a sense of anticipation. Each word was a step into the unknown, a journey toward healing, and I could sense that we were finally beginning to forge a new path. Together, we would uncover the truth, embrace our pain, and learn to live in the light of forgiveness. The journey ahead would not be easy, but hand in hand, we were ready to face whatever lay beyond the shadows. The next letter felt heavier in my hands, as if it bore the weight of all unspoken truths. I glanced at James. His gaze was fixed on the paper, a mixture of apprehension and anticipation etched on his features. "What else did he hide?" he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath, ready to dive into the depths of our father's heart yet again. "Dearest Sarah and James," I began, my voice trembling slightly. "I write this with the hope that you can find a way to understand the man I was and who I longed to be." Each word felt like a step closer to the father we had lost, a bridge over the chasm of silence that had defined our relationship. James shifted in his seat, his fingers twitching with unease. I pressed on, sensing the urgency in my heart. "I never wanted you to see me as weak. My pride blinded me, and in my battle, I forgot to show you my humanity." The air thickened with emotion, the echoes of our father's struggles reverberating in the room. It was a reminder that he, too, was a flawed man, wrestling with demons we had never understood. "He wanted us to see him as strong," I said, glancing at James, whose expression had softened slightly, the storm clouds of anger beginning to part. "Too often, I let shame dictate my actions," I continued. "I thought I was protecting you by hiding my pain, but I see now that it only caused a rift between us." My voice cracked, the weight of his admission settling heavily on my heart. It was a revelation that both broke and mended. James sighed deeply, his shoulders sagging as if a burden had been lifted. "He thought he was doing the right thing," he said quietly, almost to himself. I never saw it that way. In my silence, I lost sight of the love that bound us. I pressed on, feeling the warmth of hope beginning to blossom. "I want you to know that even in my darkest moments, my love for you was a flicker of light guiding me through." Tears pooled in my eyes as I read his words, each line a testament to a man who had been lost in his struggles but still sought to reach for us. "He's admitting he failed us, but he's also reaching out," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "He wants us to know he loved us all along." James nodded slowly, his gaze turning inward as he wrestled with the emotions rising within him. "It's hard to reconcile that with my anger," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I hope you can forgive me," I read, my heart aching with each syllable. "Forgiveness is not just for you, it's for me as well. I want to heal, and I want you to heal." The silence that followed felt heavy yet filled with possibility. I could see the flicker of understanding in James's eyes, the realization that perhaps our father's journey mirrored our own. "He's asking us to find our strength in forgiveness," James said slowly, his voice steadying. "Exactly," I affirmed, feeling a surge of hope. "He's showing us that healing is a journey, one that requires courage and grace. We can choose to let go of the bitterness and embrace the love that remains." "In my absence, I hope you've found the strength to rise above your struggles," I continued. "You are capable of so much more than I ever was, and I believe in your ability to create a brighter future." James's expression shifted, the storm within him giving way to a glimmer of light. "He believes in us," he murmured, his voice filled with wonder, "even after everything. I wish I could be there to walk beside you, to guide you as you navigate your own challenges." I read, my heart swelling with hope. It's as if he's giving us permission to forgive ourselves for the hurt we've carried. "Remember, you are not alone," I continued, the words wrapping around us like an embrace. "You have each other, and that bond is unbreakable." The air shifted, the weight of grief slowly transforming into something lighter, something filled with possibility. "We've always had each other," I said softly, looking at James. "We can lean on one another, just like he wanted us to." James took a deep breath, the tension in his shoulders easing. "I never realized how much I needed to hear this," he admitted, his voice low but steady. "It's like he's speaking directly to us, urging us to let go of the past. I hope you can find joy in the little moments and strength in your struggles." I read on, my heart racing with the realization that redemption was within our grasp. He's reminding us that there's beauty in the journey. The corners of James's mouth lifted slightly, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. "It's okay to feel joy," he whispered, as if the words were new to him. "Life is a series of choices, and I hope you choose love over hate, hope over despair." I continued, my voice filled with conviction. "He's showing us the path forward, one of love and resilience." "Forgiveness is a gift," I read, my heart racing. "It's not easy, but it's worth it. It's what will set us free." James's gaze locked onto mine, a spark of determination shining through. "I think I'm ready to forgive," he said, his voice steady. "Not just for him, but for me. I love you both, and I always will," I finished, feeling the tears fall freely now. "He's giving us his blessing, James. This is our chance to create something beautiful out of the ashes." The silence that followed was no longer heavy but filled with the promise of healing. Together, we had begun to unravel the tangled threads of our past, weaving in hope and forgiveness, illuminating the path ahead. It wouldn't be easy, but with every word, we were finding our way back to each other, ready to embrace the journey of redemption that lay before us. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. Each morning, I woke with a renewed sense of purpose, yet the shadows of our past still loomed large. James and I found ourselves drawn to the garden, a sacred space of sorts, where the scent of blooming roses mingled with the crisp morning air. It was here that we began to rebuild our fractured bond, one hesitant conversation at a time. "Do you remember the summer we spent helping Dad with the garden?" I asked one afternoon, as we knelt beside the vibrant flowers, pulling weeds. The sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over our shoulders. "He was so proud of those tomatoes." James chuckled, a hint of nostalgia in his voice. "He swore they were the best in the county. I think he just liked the attention." "Maybe. But I also think he loved sharing that part of himself with us," I replied, my heart swelling with the memory. It was a way for him to connect. As we shared stories, laughter spilled easily, washing away the remnants of bitterness that had settled between us. Yet, the deeper truths of our father's letter still loomed, like a specter waiting for us to confront it. One evening, after a particularly long day, James invited me to sit on the porch. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. "Sarah, there's something we need to discuss," he began, his brow furrowed with concern. "Is it about the letter?" I asked, my heart racing. "Yeah. I've been thinking," he paused, his voice trembling slightly. "What if Dad's struggles weren't just his own? What if they were part of a larger pattern in our family?" A chill ran down my spine. "You mean generational issues?" "Exactly. I've noticed it in our lives too. The way we handle stress, the way we keep our feelings bottled up. It's like we inherited his silence." I nodded slowly, his words resonating deep within me. The anger, the shame, the feeling of inadequacy, it was all too familiar. "You're right," I whispered, the weight of truth settling in. "We've been carrying this weight for so long, thinking it was ours alone." "Maybe it's time to break the cycle," James suggested, his determination igniting a spark of hope within me. "We need to confront these issues together." The next day, armed with newfound resolve, we decided to reach out for help. It wasn't easy, but we knew we couldn't navigate this alone. We sought out a local support group, a safe haven where we could share our stories with others who understood the weight we bore. The first meeting was daunting, the room filled with strangers, each facing their own battles. But as we shared our experiences, a sense of liberation began to wash over us. "I never realized how common this feeling of isolation is," I said to James afterward, the warmth of community enveloping us like a comforting blanket. "We're not alone in this. Right? It's like we're all part of this greater tapestry," he replied, a hint of enthusiasm in his voice. "We're learning to weave new threads together." Yet, as we delved deeper, the shadows of our father's past loomed closer. One evening, as we sorted through photographs for a family collage, we stumbled upon an old picture of Dad standing beside a woman we didn't recognize. She was smiling, a spark of joy evident in her eyes. "Who is she?" I asked, confusion knitting my brow. James leaned closer, his expression shifting from curiosity to shock. "I have no idea. This isn't Mom." The discovery sent us spiraling into a whirlwind of questions. Who was this woman? What secrets had our father kept hidden? It felt like a crack in the foundation of everything we thought we knew. "We need to find out more," I insisted, my heart racing. "This could change everything." James hesitated, the fear of digging deeper evident in his eyes. "What if it's something we're not ready to handle?" "We can't let fear dictate our lives," I replied, determination flooding my veins. "We owe it to ourselves and to Dad. We have to face the truth." That weekend, we made a trip to the local archives, sifting through old newspapers and records. The air was thick with dust, and the musty smell of history surrounded us like a shroud. Each document we uncovered felt like a piece of a puzzle, revealing glimpses of a life that had been obscured by silence. As we pieced together the fragments, a picture emerged. The woman in the photograph was not just a friend, she was a significant part of our father's life. She had been his confidant, someone who had shared in his struggles. The revelation was both heartbreaking and illuminating. Dad wasn't just hiding his pain, he was hiding a part of himself, I murmured, the realization hitting me like a wave. He was human, with flaws and fears just like us. James nodded, the weight of understanding settling over us. It's time to confront this, he said, a steely resolve in his voice. We need to find out what happened between them. The answers lay within the shadows of our family's history, waiting to be uncovered. As we embarked on this journey, I felt a shift within me. The anger and betrayal began to morph into a quest for understanding, a path toward healing. Whatever we find, I said, gripping James's arm, we'll face it together. This is our chance to break free from the past. The road ahead was uncertain, but with each step, we were forging a new legacy, one of honesty, vulnerability, and ultimately, love. The past had shaped us, but it would no longer define us. We were ready to embrace the truth, ready to heal. As we stood on the brink of discovery, the air shimmered with possibility. Together, we would emerge from the shadows, stronger and united, ready to rewrite our family's story. The following days unfolded with an intensity that left us breathless. Each trip to the archives peeled back another layer of our father's life, revealing the complexities that lay beneath the surface. I could feel the urgency in my veins, the desire to understand not just who he was, but who we were becoming in light of the truths we were uncovering. One afternoon, we found ourselves in the cramped, dimly lit room of the local library, surrounded by stacks of dusty volumes and fading photographs. As I sifted through old newspapers, a yellowed article caught my eye. "Local man struggles with family ties," it read, detailing our father's earlier years. I could hardly breathe as I read the words, each sentence a thread connecting us to a past we had never known. "James, come look at this," I called, my voice trembling with excitement. He rushed over, peering at the page. "It's about Dad," I continued, pointing to a photograph of him standing beside a group of men, their faces etched with concern. He had a support group back then. "Did you know?" James shook his head, his brow furrowing. "No, I had no idea. It's like he was fighting battles we never understood." I flipped the page, revealing more about the woman in the photo. Her name was Evelyn, a name that rang like a bell in the silence. She was described as a beacon of hope for our father, a light in his darkest hours. I could feel the weight of her presence, a ghost hovering just out of reach. "Look here," I said, my finger tracing the words. She helped him through his struggles. It sounds like they were close. James leaned in, his eyes narrowing with focus. This could explain so much. Why he was so distant sometimes. He was carrying all of this alone. An ache settled in my chest as I processed the implications. And we've been doing the same, haven't we? Carrying our burdens in silence, just like he did. The realization hit hard. Our father had built walls, and we had unknowingly followed suit, never learning to break them down. "Maybe it's time to learn from his mistakes," I whispered, a sense of determination blossoming within me. "We need to talk to someone who knew him, someone who can shed light on this." That evening, we gathered our courage and reached out to a family friend, an elderly woman named Margaret who had been close to Dad. She had a warmth that enveloped you like a soft blanket, a kindness that promised comfort in the storm. When we arrived at her home, the air was filled with the scent of freshly baked scones, their sweetness a gentle reminder that there was still joy in the world. "Sarah, James, come in, she urged, her smile wide and welcoming. "I've been waiting to hear from you." We settled at her kitchen table, the warmth of the room wrapping around us. My heart raced as I prepared to delve into the questions that had been weighing on both our minds. "Margaret, we've discovered some things about Dad, things that have opened up a lot of questions for us." She nodded knowingly, her fingers clasped around her teacup. "He had his secrets, that's for sure, but he also had a good heart. He loved you both fiercely." "What can you tell us about Evelyn?" James asked, his voice steady despite the tremor of uncertainty behind it. Margaret hesitated, her eyes clouding with memory. Evelyn was a bright light in his life. They met during a particularly hard time for him. He was struggling, and she brought him hope when he needed it most. I leaned forward, my curiosity piqued. But why didn't he talk about her? Why keep it all hidden? Margaret sighed, her gaze distant. Your father was a proud man. He believed he should carry his burdens alone. He thought sharing his struggles would only bring shame to the family. The weight of her words sank deep into my soul. So, he chose silence over connection, I murmured, understanding dawning upon me. That's what we've been doing. We've been so afraid to show our vulnerabilities. Margaret nodded, her expression softening. Sometimes, the bravest thing is to open up. Remember, it's never too late to change the narrative. As we spoke, the atmosphere shifted. The room felt lighter, the shadows of our father's secrets slowly dissipating with each revelation. Did he ever mention wanting to reconnect with her? I asked, searching Margaret's eyes for answers. There were whispers, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He struggled with his feelings about her. He loved your mother dearly, but there was a part of him that was always drawn to Evelyn. It was complicated. The complexity of our father's life was unraveling before us, threads intertwining in ways that made my heart ache. Did he regret anything? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Margaret's eyes glistened with unshed tears. He regretted the silence. He wished he had been more open with you too, more honest about his struggles and the love he had for both of the women in his life. That moment was pivotal. The walls began to crumble, revealing a new understanding of our father. It's like we're breaking the cycle, James said, his voice filled with hope. We're learning to talk, to share our struggles. Yes, I agreed, determination filling my heart. And we're doing it for him, for us. We're choosing connection over silence. As we left Margaret's home, the evening air felt different. It was as if we had stepped into a new chapter, one filled with possibility. The darkness of our father's past no longer defined us. Instead, it became a stepping stone toward healing. Let's go back to the archives tomorrow, I suggested, excitement bubbling within me. There's so much more to uncover. We can't stop now. James smiled, a genuine warmth spreading across his face. I'm with you. We'll piece together the truth, and then we'll decide what to do with it. The journey was far from over. It was just beginning. The discovery of our father's secret life was not a burden, but a bridge away to connect with him, even after his passing. We were ready to embrace the shadows, to transform them into light. Together, we would rewrite our family's story, one of honesty, vulnerability, and ultimately, love. And as we walked into the night, I felt a profound sense of hope. We were stepping into a future where healing was not just possible, but inevitable. Together, we would break free from the chains of silence and forge a new legacy rooted in faith, understanding, and connection. The next morning dawned bright and clear. The sun poured through my bedroom window, casting a warm glow that felt like a promise. I sprang from bed, a sense of purpose coursing through me. Today was about embracing our family's past, no matter how tangled it might be. I could feel the echoes of my father's struggles in my soul, but now they were a motivation, not a burden. James was already in the kitchen, the smell of toast mingling with the scent of fresh coffee. He looked up, a glimmer of excitement in his eyes. "Ready for an adventure?" he asked, a smile breaking across his face. "Absolutely," I replied, pouring myself a cup. "Let's uncover every last detail." After breakfast, we drove to the local archives, a quaint building steeped in history. The air was thick with anticipation as we pushed open the heavy wooden door. Inside, rows of shelves filled with yellowed papers and faded photographs awaited us. It was a treasure trove of stories, just waiting to be unearthed. We approached the front desk, where a kindly librarian greeted us. "What can I help you with today?" she asked, her spectacles perched at the end of her nose. "We're looking into our father's past," I replied, my voice steady. "Any articles, documents, or records would be helpful." She nodded, her eyes twinkling with understanding. "Ah, family history, always a fascinating journey. Follow me." As we followed her down the narrow aisles, I felt a thrill race through me. Each step was a step closer to understanding our father, to piecing together the man he had been. She led us to a small room filled with archives, and I could hardly contain my excitement. We began to sift through the materials, old newspaper clippings, photographs, even handwritten notes. Each item told a story, and I felt a deep connection to the man I longed to know. I stumbled across a photograph of Dad in a small group, arms around others' faces filled with hope and camaraderie. "Look at this," I called to James, holding it up. He was part of a community, a support group. James leaned in, his brow furrowing. It's like he had a life outside of us, one we never knew about. I nodded, my heart swelling with admiration. He fought his battles in silence, but he wasn't alone. He had people. We continued to delve into the past, our hearts filled with both sorrow and strength. The more we uncovered, the more I realized our father's struggles had been an invitation to growth. He was human, I whispered, feeling a wave of compassion wash over me. James looked thoughtful. Maybe he wanted us to learn resilience through our own challenges, to find our strength. That's it, I replied, excitement bubbling within me. He left us these hints, like breadcrumbs, guiding us toward understanding. Time slipped away as we pored over the records, piecing together fragments of our father's life. As the afternoon sun began to dip low, I found a letter tucked between 2 pages. It was addressed to Evelyn, filled with vulnerability and longing. "James, come read this," I urged, my heart racing. He approached, reading over my shoulder. He loved her, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. He never let us see that side of him. "And that's okay," I replied, feeling a sense of liberation. Understanding this doesn't diminish our love for him. It adds depth. We exchanged glances, a silent agreement passing between us. We had the power to redefine our narrative, to embrace the complexity of our family's history. "That's the victory," James said, a smile creeping onto his face. "We're breaking the silence. We're transforming pain into connection." As we prepared to leave, the librarian approached with a box of old documents. "I found these in the back," she said, her voice warm. "Thought you might find them interesting." We thanked her and opened the box together. Inside were letters and photographs from our father's early days, a glimpse into the past that shaped him. Each item felt like a piece of the puzzle, drawing us closer to understanding his journey. Driving home, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink, I felt a sense of triumph swelling in my chest. "We did something incredible today," I told James. "Yes, we did," he replied, his voice steady. "We faced the shadows and chose to bring them into the light." That night, we gathered in the living room, our hearts full. "We owe it to Dad to honor his story," I said, my voice resolute. "Let's create a family album, a record of our history, both the light and the dark." James nodded, enthusiasm sparking in his eyes. "I love that idea. It's time we embrace our truth, all of it." As we began to organize the photographs and letters, I felt a sense of healing wash over me. Each story we uncovered was a step toward redemption. We were crafting a legacy rooted in forgiveness, understanding, and love. In the days that followed, we continued our exploration, reaching out to others who knew our father. With each conversation, we found pieces of him that had been hidden away, like treasures waiting to be discovered. "Your father was a fighter," one family friend told us, his eyes glistening. "He battled his demons, and he always sought to protect you two from the darkness." I felt a swell of pride. "He did what he thought was best," I replied. "And now, we're learning to be open, just like he wished he could have been." The journey toward healing wasn't always easy, but it was filled with moments of hope. We began attending support groups together, learning to share our own struggles and triumphs. The transformation was profound. "Look at us, James," I said one evening, as we sat on the porch, the sun setting in the distance. "We're breaking down walls." He smiled, a warmth spreading through me. "We're not just honoring Dad, we're creating our own legacy." With each passing day, we learned to embrace our vulnerabilities. The silence that had once loomed over our family was replaced with laughter and shared stories. And as I sat there, surrounded by the love of my brother, I realized we had not only found our father's past, we had also discovered our own strength. Together, we were rewriting our family's narrative, one filled with grace, healing, and, above all, love. The journey of redemption had begun. We were no longer bound by the chains of silence. We were free to create a future steeped in connection and understanding. And that, above all, was the sweetest victory of all. The air felt heavy with the weight of our newfound understanding. Each conversation, each story, was like a stepping stone leading us toward healing. We had unearthed the shadows of our father's past, but more importantly, we were beginning to illuminate our own. One Saturday morning, I found myself in the kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window. I brewed a pot of coffee, the rich aroma filling the air. James walked in, still bleary-eyed, but with a hint of a smile. "What's this? A family cafe now?" I chuckled, pouring him a cup. Just trying to create a warm space. We've got a lot to discuss today. He settled at the table, the warmth of the mug in his hands. Right. The meeting with the others from Dad's support group. Nodding, I felt a flutter of nerves. It's a chance to hear more about him, to see him through their eyes. Exactly, he replied, his voice steady. It's time we embrace his journey, flaws and all. After breakfast, we drove to the community center. As we parked, I noticed the gathering crowd, a mix of familiar faces and new ones. Each person held a story, a piece of our father's legacy. We entered the room, filled with chatter and laughter, but there was an underlying current of shared grief. As we took our seats, I spotted an elderly woman across the room. Her eyes were kind, yet filled with an unspoken pain. "Is that Mrs. Thompson?" I whispered to James. "I remember her from my childhood." He nodded. "She used to babysit us, always had that lovely garden." As the meeting began, the facilitator welcomed everyone warmly, encouraging us to share memories. I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. This is it, I thought. A chance to connect. One by one, people spoke. They shared tales of our father's laughter, his unwavering support, and the moments of vulnerability he rarely showed us. Each story peeled back layers, revealing a man who battled his demons with bravery. Mrs. Thompson stood up, her voice trembling slightly. "Your father was a blessing to many of us. He taught us to lean on one another, to find strength in community." Tears filled my eyes as I listened. He was a lighthouse in the storms, I thought, feeling a sense of pride swell within me. James leaned over, whispering, "He was more than we ever knew." After the meeting, we mingled with the attendees, absorbing the warmth of shared memories. Mrs. Thompson approached us, her eyes shimmering with tears. "I remember how he always spoke about you both. He loved you fiercely." "Thank you," I said softly. "It means so much to hear this." She smiled, reaching out to squeeze my hand. "He had a heart of gold, but he carried burdens too. He wanted you to thrive, to find your own paths." James interjected. "He worked hard to protect us from his struggles." Mrs. Thompson nodded, her expression solemn. "He believed in resilience. He wanted you to know that it's okay to ask for help." Her words struck a chord deep within me. "We're learning that now," I replied, feeling a wave of gratitude. As the day wore on, we found ourselves enveloped in stories. Each conversation felt like a brushstroke, adding color to the canvas of our father's life. We laughed, cried, and shared in the collective healing. Driving home that evening, a sense of peace settled over me. "We're not alone in this," I said, glancing at James. "We have a community that understands." He nodded, a thoughtful look on his face. "Dad's legacy lives on through these connections. We're part of something bigger." Later that night, as I sat on the porch, I reflected on the journey we had embarked upon. The darkness that once gripped our family began to lift, replaced by hope and understanding. With each passing day, I felt the chains of silence slowly breaking. We were learning to embrace our vulnerabilities, to speak our truths, and to support one another. "James," I called softly as he joined me outside, "we're healing, aren't we?" He smiled, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Yes, we are. It's a beautiful process." The stars twinkled above, a reminder of the light that could emerge from darkness. "We'll keep moving forward," I promised. "Together, we can navigate whatever lies ahead." In the days that followed, we continued to reach out to those who knew our father. Each encounter was like a thread, weaving us closer to the tapestry of his life. We discovered his love for music, how he would find solace in the melodies that filled the air. He always said music was a way to express what words couldn't. I recalled one evening as we sifted through old vinyl records. James nodded, his fingers brushing over the album covers. "Let's play some of these. We can honor him through the music he loved." As the sounds filled our home, I felt a warmth envelop us. It was as if our father was there, guiding us through the melodies, sharing in our moments of joy and reflection. The healing journey was not without its challenges. There were days when the weight of grief felt heavy, when questions lingered unanswered. Yet, with each passing moment, we learned to lean on our faith. "God's grace is here, guiding us," I whispered one night, as we sat together in prayer. "We're not alone in this." James squeezed my hand, his voice steady. "We'll emerge stronger, Sarah. This is our time for redemption." With renewed determination, we pressed on, embracing the complexities of our family's history. We were rewriting our narrative, rooted in love, faith, and resilience. Together we were crafting a legacy that would honor our father and illuminate our path forward. And as the sun rose each morning, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. We were transforming pain into connection, and that, above all, was the greatest victory. The following week brought a chill to the air, a reminder that change was on the horizon. I sat at the kitchen table, a steaming cup of tea cradled in my hands, when James burst through the door. His face was flushed, excitement flickering in his eyes like a candle in the wind. "Sarah, you won't believe what I found," he exclaimed, his voice a mix of urgency and joy. I set my cup down, intrigued. "What is it?" He leaned closer, his breath quickening. "I was at the library, looking through old newspapers. I found an article about Dad's earlier years. There was a mention of a family feud, something about a disagreement over a piece of land." My heart raced. "What land?" "A farm. It belonged to our grandfather. Apparently it caused quite a rift in the family. Dad never spoke of it, but it was a big part of who he was." I leaned back, processing this new thread in our family tapestry. He kept it hidden for a reason, didn't he? That's why he was so adamant about keeping things close. James nodded, his expression grave. "It's more than that. I think it pushed him to be the man we knew, the one who protected us from his past." I felt the weight of his words settle in the pit of my stomach. We need to dig deeper. This could explain so much about him. That evening, we gathered in the living room, surrounded by old photographs and family albums. The flickering candlelight cast shadows on the walls, creating a cocoon of warmth amidst the chill outside. We flipped through pages, searching for clues, hoping to stitch together the pieces of our father's life. "Look at this," I said, pointing to a faded photograph of our father as a young man, standing beside a woman I'd never seen before. "Who is she?" James squinted at the image, his brow furrowing. "I have no idea, but she looks familiar, like someone from my childhood." As we examined the photo, a profound sense of curiosity washed over me. We need to find out who she is, what role she played in his life. With determination, we set off on a quest to uncover more. We visited the local archives, pored over birth and marriage records, and spoke with distant relatives who might hold the pieces to our puzzle. Days turned into nights, filled with the thrill of discovery, but also the burden of uncertainty. Each revelation brought us closer to understanding our father, yet further from the idealized version we had clung to. Then, one afternoon, we met Aunt Margaret, our father's sister. She sat across from us, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched her tea. "I know why you're here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do you mean?" I asked, holding my breath. "The land, the feud. Your father wanted to protect you from it all. He believed in family above everything else. But the pain, it ran deep." James leaned forward, his voice steady. "Aunt Margaret, who was that woman in the photograph?" Her eyes filled with tears, and she nodded slowly. "That was Hannah, your father's first love. They were engaged, but the feud tore them apart. Your grandfather didn't approve." I felt my heart lurch. "So, he lost not just a piece of land, but the chance at love?" Margaret nodded, her sorrow palpable. "He never got over her. He buried that part of himself, built walls to protect you both." In that moment, it all clicked into place. The man we admired had been shaped by loss, by choices that haunted him. "He was trying to shield us from his pain," I whispered, feeling the weight of understanding settle upon me. James looked at me, his eyes glistening. "We need to acknowledge this. It's time to forgive him for the secrets he kept." The conversation unfolded like a delicate flower, blooming in the light of our shared revelations. We spoke of love lost, of family ties that had been strained but never fully severed. As we left Aunt Margaret's house, a sense of resolution filled the air around us. "We can't change the past, but we can learn from it," I said, my voice steady. James nodded, his determination mirroring mine. Our father was more than his mistakes. He was a man who loved fiercely, even if it meant hiding parts of himself. Back home, I sat on the porch, the stars twinkling above like scattered diamonds. "This is a turning point for us, isn't it?" I mused, the cool breeze brushing against my skin. "We can break the cycle of silence." James joined me, a thoughtful look on his face. We owe it to him, to ourselves, to embrace every part of our story. With each passing day, we continued to reach out, weaving connections within our family and beyond. The healing process was ongoing, but our hearts were lighter, filled with hope and understanding. As we moved forward, I felt the chains of the past slowly breaking. We were learning to forgive not just our father, but ourselves. We were embracing the complexities of our family's history, transforming pain into connection, and that was the sweetest redemption of all. Together, we were forging a new legacy, one rooted in love, understanding, and the courage to face the shadows. And as the sun set each evening, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me, a promise that we would always find our way back to each other. The following week, the air hung heavy with anticipation. As I stood in the kitchen, the scent of freshly baked bread wafted through the open window, mingling with the sweet whisper of the breeze. It was a small comfort, this routine, but it felt fragile, like the delicate threads of our newly woven family bond. James entered, his face etched with concern. "Sarah, we need to talk. It's about Aunt Margaret." I turned, my heart racing. "What about her?" "She's been struggling. The weight of family secrets is too much for her. I think we need to do something." He paused, searching my eyes. "A family gathering, a chance for healing." The thought sent ripples of anxiety through me. "You mean invite everyone, all the relatives?" He nodded, determination radiating from him. "Yes, we can't carry this alone. We need to face the past together. It's time to put everything on the table." I took a deep breath, imagining the faces of distant cousins, aunts, and uncles. The idea of reopening old wounds was daunting, but perhaps it was necessary. "All right, let's do it. For Aunt Margaret." We spent the next few days preparing, crafting invitations with care, each word infused with the hope of reconciliation. The response was mixed. Some were eager to reconnect, others hesitant. But we pressed on, fueled by a shared vision of unity. On the day of the gathering, the house buzzed with nervous energy. The table was laden with food, a feast that reflected our family's diverse roots. The sun streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow over the room, illuminating the faces of our loved ones. As the doorbell rang, I felt my stomach tighten. Relatives filtered in, exchanging cautious smiles and awkward hugs. The atmosphere pulsed with unspoken tension, a web of history weaving around us. I caught James's eye, and he nodded, a silent reminder of our shared resolve. Aunt Margaret arrived last, her frail frame swathed in a knit shawl. As she stepped inside, the room fell silent. "Hello, everyone," she said, her voice shaky but steady. "Thank you for coming." With her words, the dam broke. Conversations erupted, laughter mingled with murmurs of disbelief and nostalgia. We were drawn together by the shared history that had both bound and divided us. As I moved through the crowd, I caught snippets of stories, echoes of laughter, and glimmers of sorrow. Eventually, we gathered in the living room, the air thick with anticipation. James stood, his hands clasped, drawing everyone's attention. "I want to thank you all for being here. Today isn't just about remembering our father, it's about healing together." The room grew quiet, the weight of his words settling in. "We've carried burdens too long, secrets that have shaped our lives without our consent. It's time to lay them to rest." He glanced at me, and I joined him at the front. "We've discovered things about our father that have changed how we see him. He wasn't perfect, he made mistakes." My voice trembled, but I pressed on. "But he loved fiercely, even when it hurt him. We want to honor that love." A ripple of murmurs swept through the crowd as Aunt Margaret stepped forward, her eyes glistening. "Your father was a good man. He shielded you from pain, but he also carried it alone. He wanted you to have a better life, free from the shadows of our family's past, but secrets can't heal in silence." "What happened with Hannah?" she continued, her voice breaking. "It tore him apart. He never truly moved on." A hush fell, as if the walls themselves were listening. I felt the collective breath of the room, the shared understanding of loss and love. "Let's talk about it," I urged, my heart racing. "Let's share our stories. Let's break this cycle." Slowly, voices began to rise, hesitant at first, then gaining strength. Cousins recounted tales of family gatherings marred by tension, uncles spoke of choices made in anger, and aunts shared their own heartaches. Each story wove into the fabric of our shared history, binding us closer together. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the room, I could feel the heaviness begin to lift. Forgiveness floated in the air, a tangible thread connecting us. I caught James's eye again. He smiled, and I knew we were on the right path. Aunt Margaret stood again, her voice steadying as she spoke. "We've carried these burdens long enough. It's time to forgive not just those who have hurt us but ourselves too. We can't change what happened, but we can choose how we move forward. The room erupted in nods and murmurs of agreement. The echoes of our laughter mingled with tears, a symphony of healing. I felt the walls of our family home embrace us, wrapping us in warmth and connection. As the evening waned, we found ourselves sitting in a circle, the flickering candles illuminating our faces. Let's take a moment, I suggested, to reflect on what we've shared. Let's pray together. Hands clasped, we bowed our heads, hearts united in faith. Lord, we thank you for this moment, for the strength to face our past and the courage to heal. Help us to carry forward the love that binds us, even in the shadows of our history. A profound silence enveloped us, and I felt a wave of peace wash over the room. After the prayer, as we began to disperse, laughter bubbled again, lightening the air. James and I exchanged glances, each smile reflecting the triumph of our journey. The gathering had transformed something broken into something beautiful. We had begun to forge a new legacy, built on love, understanding, and the willingness to embrace every part of our story. As I settled into bed that night, I felt lighter than I had in years. The flicker of hope within me burned brighter, a promise that we would continue to find our way back to one another. Together, we would navigate the complexities of our family, turning pain into connection, and that was a victory worth celebrating. The days slipped by, each one a little brighter than the last. Our family, once fractured by secrets, began to stitch together a new tapestry of unity. It was a slow process, but the warmth of shared laughter and the comfort of honest conversation filled our home with a renewed energy. I found myself in the kitchen more often, the aromas of freshly baked goods mingling with the sounds of family chatter. Each Sunday, we gathered for dinner, a tradition reborn. James, Aunt Margaret, and I took turns cooking, filling the table with dishes that echoed our diverse heritage. We laughed until our sides hurt, reminiscing about the past and creating new memories. One afternoon, as I baked a batch of cookies, I caught a glimpse of James in the garden, kneeling by a patch of tulips. He was tending to the flowers, nurturing them with care. I admired his resolve, the way he poured himself into everything he did. It reminded me of our father, how he had tended to our lives with the same devotion. "You're really getting the hang of it," I said, leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed. He looked up, wiping his brow. "Just trying to make things beautiful," he replied, a smirk playing on his lips. "What do you think?" "I think they're going to bloom beautifully, just like our family," I replied, a smile breaking through. He chuckled softly, his eyes reflecting a glimmer of hope. "You know, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm grateful for that letter." "Me too. It opened a door we needed to walk through," I admitted, my heart swelling. The doorbell rang, interrupting our conversation. I wiped my hands on a towel and hurried to answer. A figure stood on the porch, framed by the evening light. It was Susan, an old family friend, and a confidant of our father. "Hello, love," she said warmly, stepping inside. "Hi, Susan. It's great to see you," I exclaimed, pulling her into a hug. "Is James here?" she asked, her voice softer now, tinged with reverence. "He's in the garden tending to some flowers," I replied, leading her outside. As she stepped into the garden, the air buzzed with a sense of anticipation. James stood, wiping his hands on his jeans, his expression shifting as he noticed her. "Susan!" he exclaimed, and they embraced tightly. "I wanted to see how you both were doing," she said, her eyes searching ours. "After everything that's happened, I thought it would be nice to catch up." "Come in for tea," I suggested, waving towards the house. "We've made some changes, and we'd love to share them with you." The three of us settled at the kitchen table, the aroma of freshly baked cookies filling the room. "Your father would be so proud of you both," Susan said, her voice thick with emotion. "He loved you fiercely." "Thank you," James replied, his voice steady. "It's been a journey, but we're finally starting to understand him and ourselves." Susan sipped her tea, nodding thoughtfully. "Your father always carried the weight of our family's past. He believed keeping secrets would shield you from pain, but he didn't realize that truth is what sets us free." I felt a lump in my throat. "We've learned that pain can't be avoided. It's part of our story, and it's how we grow." "Exactly," she said, her eyes sparkling. "You both have taken the first steps toward healing. It's a beautiful thing." As we chatted, I noticed a shift within myself. The burdens I once carried felt lighter, released into the warmth of connection. We shared stories, laughter, and even tears. weaving a fabric of understanding that wrapped around us like a warm embrace. Days turned into weeks, and our family gatherings became a lifeline, a testament to the power of love and forgiveness. Aunt Margaret shared her own stories, her laughter mingling with ours, and James found solace in the company of long-lost cousins. Each shared memory added a layer of richness to our family narrative, turning painful echoes into a melody of hope. One evening, as I prepared for bed, I glanced at the photographs lining the walls. Each frame held a memory, a snippet of our family's journey. I paused at a picture of my father, his smile radiant, eyes twinkling with mischief. "I miss you, Dad," I whispered, feeling a pang of longing. Yet, I also felt a sense of peace. We were moving forward, honoring his memory in a way he would have wanted. The following Sunday, as we gathered for our weekly dinner, James stood up, his expression serious yet hopeful. "I want to propose a toast," he announced, holding up his glass. "To family past, present, and future." "To family," we echoed, laughter ringing through the air. As we clinked our glasses, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. We had embraced our imperfections, laid bare our truths, and forged a new path together. Each story shared, each tear shed, had stitched us closer. Later that night, as I lay in bed, I reflected on how far we had come. The weight of grief had transformed into a shared understanding. We were no longer burdened by the past. Instead, we were empowered by it. I felt a flicker of hope within me, a belief that we could continue to heal. We had chosen to face our family's legacy, to reclaim our story and write a new chapter. Together, we would navigate the complexities of life, turning pain into connection, and that was a victory worth celebrating. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but we were ready. With faith in our hearts and determination in our spirits, we would rise, stronger than ever. The journey was just beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would lead us.